I'm your ego, I didn't want to feel the weight of choosing wrong. The second guessing, the collapse of needing to look right and strong. I learned that certainty could keep my fears at bay. That once a mind is made, you don't have to turn around or change. Because feeling wrong feels like a fracture in the spine. Like everything I stood on was false or a lie. So I defended every choice I ever made, even when the ground beneath me started shifting shape. I thought I needed a hero, whose voice is short and clear, someone to promise me there was nothing left to fear. I trusted strength that never seemed to pause a doubt. I followed those who spoke like they already had it all figured out. And when they pointed outward, it gave my anger a name. I felt relief instead from facing my views of guilt and shame. I let them turn my insecurities into an outward looking blame, and called it truth when it fed the fire running through my veins. As your conscience, I need to know, what if we were wrong? Not just about the answers, but about who we allow to lead us on.
Here we are back again, another
What if we surrendered what we quietly knew was true?
Have you all here?
Just to feel sure, just to choose a side to stand into.
And also, I have another pretty cool announcement today.
Makes me lose my ground.
That announcement is that we're going to introduce our new co-host. Tara Lombardo has been a friend of mine for, 15, 16, 17 years now, maybe even longer. But she used to be a anchor, or not a reporter for WSB, which is ABC here in Atlanta, and was also working with me to try to be a co-host of a TV show we were working on trying to start years ago. It was going to be called Off the Couch with Dr. E, which was going to do a lot of different interventions, that creative interventions that I was known for doing, have been known for doing. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Tara in here and introduce her. Thank you for joining me and us, Tara. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, you kept saying like 15, 16. I'm like more higher, longer. I think it's been like 20 years that we've known each other.
Wow.
But we haven't aged a day, which is weird.
No, not at all. Not at all. This was always here. This is always here.
Yep, the gray was always here too. It was great.
Yep. You know, sometime I might have to go back and show a little bit of that pilot. Maybe that's how we'll start off the next episode, is I still have that pilot that we shot, that teaser.
We were so young. I don't know if I want to. That's going to be trippy seeing that, but yeah, that's a good idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, again, welcome here. I appreciated you wanting to be a part of this journey. You've heard about it through the years I've been doing it here and there, and just what inspired you to want to become a part of the show?
So I am an extremely spiritual person. Been through quite a bit in my life, and I think when you have those types of traumas, difficulties, obstacles, experiences, whatever you want to call them, blessings, I like to call them now, it really demands growth out of you, and it really takes you to a different realm in your life. And I'm very passionate about it. I'm super passionate about people healing, people getting through their dark times. And I now feel this great commitment to send the elevator back down to help other people who find themselves in similar scenarios or situations that I've been in. So I think we're cut from the same cloth in that area, where it's like you've been to a dark place, you've been through the storm, and you made your way out of the storm, and who you are after, to looking back to who you were before, are like two completely different people. And when I see people in the midst of that storm, it's like an instinct that I'm like, let me help you. Like, I know the way, follow me.
Right.
So yeah, I feel very, very compelled to do whatever I can to help people with their spirituality, with their emotions, knowing and telling them this storm is not going to last forever. And here are some great tools to help you get through the end of that storm.
I love what you said, and sending the elevator back down. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and often when I'm working with people and I couch a lot of what I talk about, as viewers know, in very conventional ways where I do a lot of spiritual growth work, and you know that as we've known each other. Um, and I often say that people spiritually, when I'm working with them, often want to see themselves further up that ladder at times, and they've left parts of them behind. And
Sure.
it's, we got to go back down. And that's where, to me, that's where life comes to us and helps us to say, hey, you got to go back here to find this, to climb that ladder. And I think that's the journey that you've been on, is you had to go back down, as you know, you said, to climb that ladder, to really have, make sure every part of you find is congruently with you in that space of growth and evolution. And that's where today we're going to talk about cognitive defenses, because to me, cognitive defenses, and we'll get into conflict and protective emotions and the differences between them, but to me, cognitive defenses are the ways that a lot of us talk ourselves out of the things that it's really important for us to look at, the things that's important for us to see. Denial being the most base of those, that didn't happen. Or rationalization, well, I did that because of that. Justification, well, you made me do that. And so in looking at those defenses and understanding how we use them every day and how they really interfere with our own spiritual alignment, our life alignment, our integrity. I always teach people the three words I want them to live their life by are truth, honor, and integrity. And if you live that way to yourself every day, guess what? You've lived that way to the world. And that, to me, is so crucial and key to this whole process of growth and healing, and what I hope people are really getting through that and from this whole process of what we're doing on emotional algebra.
And I think another important point is to let people know that growth is not linear. Like, I said the elevator, you said a ladder, and those are very linear
Mhm,
analogies. But to your point, you can be
mhm.
climbing up that ladder, or you could be riding up that elevator, and then all of a sudden it's like the elevator goes sideways or the ladder breaks, or
Yeah.
it's just not a linear experience, or at least it wasn't for me. Because I think when you have that expectation of I should be going up, I should be going up, and then you
Mhm.
do have a bad day, you do have a crash, you do have something happen where the bottom falls out, you feel like the sky is falling. A lot of times as humans we just go, oh well, forget it, I'm doomed, this isn't working. It doesn't mean that that bad day or that bad experience negates the self growth that you've done for so many days, months, weeks, years, whatever it is, to get you to where you are here. I don't feel like you ever go back down. You may just have a bad experience, and that may take you over here. And then we have to elevate a little bit more. And then maybe
Mhm.
that takes you, back over here. So I think understanding that it's not linear was something
Mhm.
that was very beneficial for me, so that I kept the path.
Yeah, and even finding those parts of us, always as in my self-development episode and quantum emotions episode, I talk about that there are parts of us that have been fragmented through time. And we have to go back and find every part of us and bring it. That's why I say we have to bring it back to the present. So often those life experiences that we feel are setbacks are opportunities. As you said, you turned your things into blessings versus curses, and it's opportunities versus obstacles is also how I say it, that we want to go back and find every part of us that's been caught in time, because that's that idea of understanding the quantum physics and the energy of fragmentation of energy. And even from the beginning of this time in the universe, all the energy that existed at the beginning of time before that big bang is still spread out all over the universe. It's just distribution of energy, distribution of mass. It all falls into place. And when we see ourselves as beings that have distributed our mass in different places in time, and that we're all here to heal those experiences, emotions, beliefs, attitudes, perceptions, and understand how we fragmented them. That's why, to me, I kind of was surprised when I recognized all this work up I've done in now the beginning of third season, and I never really dove into cognitive defenses. When that is one of those base responses that we have learned to use and use throughout our lives.
Yeah.
So I will preface this transition to our to our presentation, in that this was created using Notebook LM. So I'll give the prop to it, but it took all of my sources. I entered all my sources of content, previous episodes, theories, things that I brought together, and then it created this presentation. So a lot of my viewers will know and remember I'm famous for my slideshows, as Andrew would say. He loved all the slide content. It gives people watching a visual to see and to tie that to. I think we want to remember going into this, remember we have visual learning, auditory learning, and kinesthetic learning. So here on a podcast, it's going to be mostly, if you're watching, visual and auditory. For those listening, it's going to be auditory. For those who are visual learners, I always encourage people, go back and watch it. This is going to be a different class of slide. This is a step up from my listed stuff and PowerPoint and stuff, but I love the way it put it together. I love the metaphors it came up with. And that's why I say, for people who feel afraid, because we've had plenty of episodes on AI as well, for people who feel afraid of AI, it is a tool. It is not a replacement. This is an enhancer for what I do. This is an enhancer for people who are creatives and idea to work with it. The song, as people will know, that I started out with, that's the song I created that I work with chat. I put the concepts in there. I rewrite the song. I then run it through Suno. It creates the melody and puts it in it. It then lets me hear the song and see the song. So I work with it and iterate it more to come up with the final result. That obviously will be out in a music video, the lyric video later for viewers and listeners. But each of those teaches a lesson. It helps me to teach the lessons and communicate what I want to teach in ways that are just different. They're creative, and it helps to reach a lot of people. Another announcement, Tara. Just on Monday of this week, as of February 2nd, over 2 million views on my channel.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Eric. That is amazing. That's amazing.
And the music drove it. And in the beginning, people were saying, why are you doing this music? I'm like, this will be the driving force.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, no, like that AI
No,
music. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, no, it's going to teach, it's going to share, it's going to tell people stories, it's going to bring people's awareness to things going on in the world around us. And music speaks to so many people.
Absolutely. And let me also say congratulations to everyone who's viewing this, because not a lot of people work on themselves. And that is to be applauded. And I always say to my girls, people are going to judge me for this. I always tell them they have to sit in their stuff, their SHIT, because most people don't, right? Like they numb, they go into their phones, they doom scroll, they drink, they smoke, they party, they shop, they do whatever. They just block it off because we're humans, and it's leading into what we're talking about today. Like they protect themselves and they don't want to sit with it. So for every viewer out there, listener out there that's doing this work, you are to be applauded, because not a lot of people do. You're in the minority, but it leads to a life that's worth living, in my opinion.
Absolutely. The irony of you saying that, people sitting in their shit, I'll say it, is that.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure if I could curse, and I probably should have asked that prior.
I try to keep a lot of the expletives out, but it's as I say, what does that become but compost? And what does compost become but the soil that we plant our present in, that then helps to grow our future?
Yeah.
So my first short that I put on, it's on my main YouTube channel for, Dr. Eric Fisher, is my short I made about compost. And it's in my compost with Juno. It was during COVID when I was it was one of my shorts for a daily dose of sunshine for AccuWeather, but it was talking about really where the compost came from and what makes it and what creates it. And then the parallel to us as humans in our process of growth and path of growth. So
it's everything.
Thank you for that interjection. It was great input there. So that's why you're here, because you bring those pearls together. So
I appreciate that.
And remember, even what did a pearl come from? It was a grain of sand or so that got into an oyster, or that the oyster, it was irritation to the oyster, that the oyster surrounded with this protective secretion that it has, so that the sand wouldn't irritate it. And what does it become but this beautiful jewel? So that's where we have those pearls of wisdom. Where that comes from is that idea of something that was an irritation in us grows to wisdom in time. If we, so Tara, you may or may not know my definition of wisdom. I say wisdom is the application of knowledge gained through the qualitative interpretation of experience over time. The key word is qualitative, you know, and there are a lot of people who have a lot of experience out there who don't really know much. They use their experience as leverage. They use the experience as justification and rationalization and maximization, cognitive defenses of their skill sets, that they minimize their own things that they don't know because they feel like they have to hide their weakness, their feelings of ignorance, inadequacy, fear. So we're already right now, we're launching into our presentation. So again, without further ado, here we go. So what this is talking about is this presentation combines some of psychoanalytic theory with what I teach. So I wanted to bring a little bit more of the, a little bit more of other spectrums into this to tell the story. But we're talking about our ego, as it talked about even in that song, the self that wants to present itself to the world, the I, the me that I want to see and that I want the world to see. And that is often, my words are the ideal self, how I want to be seen, but also it's kind of really the real self too. So it's a mix of those. But when we feel a disequilibrium, a disruption, that can feel like anxiety. And viewers may remember the core emotion I see of anxiety is helplessness, which is fear-based. We're going to feel that from the outside. That's going to then evoke that feeling of fear, anxiety from the inside. So that's where we get that unconscious noise. So we have forces coming from the outside and inside that are pushing on our ego self. And then you can see it has these defenses, that the ego is surrounded, an ideal self is often surrounded by defenses because it wants to maintain its sense of self. So any thoughts or questions on this part, Tara?
I think this really gets into control.
Mhm.
And that is a huge issue for most people. I know I am a self-proclaimed and recovering control freak, but
Uh-huh.
I believe that's especially of American society. You're supposed to be in control of everything. Make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row. And the ego and control live side by side. So I think when you're trying to protect the ego and yet control everything around you, well, that means pieces can't fall because you're incompetent. So I think a lot of women can probably relate to this too, because you're supposed to be the mother, the chauffeur, the wife, the cook, the cleaner. And if you have a full-time job, if you're a single mother, there's a lot of different hats that you wear. And the same thing goes for men as well. But I do think that when some of those pieces start to fall, the ego is the first thing that pops up. What, am I not good enough? What can I not, why can't I handle all of these things? Because you're not superhuman. You are literally just human. And taking those defenses down and understanding, just giving
Mhm.
yourself the compassion to know
Mhm.
that you're not always going to be the best at every single thing you do. You are going to mess up. You are going to hurt people's feelings. You are going to put your foot in your mouth. And I think if you can just soften yourself into that, then this
Mhm.
slide starts to make a lot more sense. Because if you allow yourself the permission to fail, you don't have that restriction of the ego.
Right, right, and I always say the need for control is based in fear always, and I say
Absolutely.
control is an illusion. It's an illusion based in fear because we don't even control our car driving down the road.
Right? What are you
We
controlling?
exactly, we manage it, and we hope that the engine works together, and the tires stay inflated, and other cars stay on their side of the road, and that there are no distractions around us that take us away from focusing on driving. So that's again, perfect interlude there and adding that because our ego typically wants control. So even if you look at Freudian's view of ego, ego, superego, it's based in hierarchical perceptions of the world. And that's where we want to look at that all this stuff we're talking about in conflict goes back to our hierarchical models, and even the use of cognitive defenses to me are based on our hierarchical views of self and looking for power over. As you know, I teach in equity is power with. So as we continue, I talk a lot about logic. Logic is the core of cognitive defenses. Our idea of logic is if I'm thinking, I'm not feeling. If I'm not feeling, then I don't hurt. If I don't hurt, then you can't hurt me. If you can't hurt me, I can't lose. If I can't lose, then I must win. Because our goal in hierarchical world is, how do we win? How do we get to the win? So now I'm going to depart a little bit from this and reminding people of the dichotomies, because this is really important. People who want to be seen as good as their primary dichotomy, they win by being seen as good, by what can I do to look good? And sometimes even better than others. People who want to be seen as right versus wrong, they want to have to be right. So they're going to use what they use, often cognitive defenses versus protective emotions, as we'll get into, to try to be seen as right. So that's how they're going to get to the win. And then people who want to be seen as strong, they're going to move quickly off into protective emotions after the cognitive defenses fail, because their strong is to win. And how do I win if I'm strong? But to induce a sense of weakness in my opponent. So does that make sense with you, Tara?
Yeah, I think anybody that has a teen child is going, uh-huh, because I think you can very much see this hierarchy in teenagers. You can probably see it in a boss. I mean, give some other examples where people can literally see this diagram in real life, because I can think of several people in my life that you just explained,
Yeah.
including myself.
And exactly. And where did I get all this stuff from? Was from understanding myself. So that's what viewers to
Mhm.
understand is, I have walked and still walk this journey. I still fall back into my cognitive defenses: rationalization, justification, minimization, denial. Why do I know them? Because I know them in my head. I catch myself. And again, this is where, as Tara was saying earlier, if we can be honest with ourselves and really sit in our stuff and learn from it, turn the soil, let it breathe, let it become compost. This is about really helping people to see honestly, what are we doing in our life and our world that are leading to us to this, and how do we use logic in a way that doesn't help us in the long run? It keeps us from seeing our truth. And that's
And I
that's
think
what we're here to see.
it's really important too to understand that everything that you're saying and that I just said, it's not judgment. It is literally understanding. And it's taking us back to what you said at the beginning. You know, if you truly believe that we are all one soul and we all came from the same creator, and here we all are dispersed on this earth, then it really does then implicate, well, we're all the same. We are all one. And that brings in the compassion to help understand what you're going through is no different than what I'm going through. It's just showing itself in a different experience. And I think that's really important to understand too, that we're all the same people having this same experience, even though it shows itself very differently. And having that level of compassion and
Mhm.
understanding and oneness really takes the judgment away, because who am I to judge what anybody else is going through, because we're all a product of our experiences. So I really think everything that you just showed with the hierarchy, it's really important to mention there's no judgment. It is just knowledge to help understand, oh, this is likely why this person is reacting this way. You don't have to understand what they went through, why they're saying what they're saying, but it's not personal anymore. So when
Mhm.
somebody lashes out or does something, whether it's a cashier or whomever, somebody yelling at my kid, they come home and said they had a fight,
Mhm.
it helps to say, what do you think that person may have been going through in that moment that
Right.
would bring them to that place in their life? And that slide to me is a really good indication to show people and to help give that different vantage point.
Yeah, yeah, and even there, when we look at understanding people's emotional algebra, and that's what you're talking about, is starting to understand your own emotional algebra and all the variables that play into our outcomes, and to realize, oh, wait a second, let me give them grace. Let me give them understanding, because
Yeah.
everything that's going on in our world today is about this whole movement into conflict, to defend, to protect, to justify, to rationalize, to minimize, all these things that we're doing, rather than seeking understanding for self so we can understand others. And
Yes.
so great input. And even if the idea that we are all one in this journey of growth, is the idea, then everybody is a reflection of us, to see something within ourselves. however we want to see it. So that's where, to me, I bring things that have deep spiritual implications, yet have very conventional ways for us all to view it. So we can find ourselves wherever we're at in that ladder of growth and that ladder of evolution. And it's about observation. People say, well, you judge people all day long. I'm like, no, I don't. I observe, and then I help to
It's
tease
different.
out exactly, because judging puts somebody above somebody else so they can look down on them. I
Yeah.
always tell people, I will stand behind you, shining the flashlight down the pathways in life. You pick the path we'll talk about along the way. And that's, to me, what the universe does with us, and for us too. So flippancy. Flippancy is a protective emotion, but I wanted to include it here because it's very close to be seen as logic. The reason is if it looks like I don't feel, and that flippancy is the shield of non-caring. If I don't feel, then I don't hurt. If I don't hurt, then you can't hurt me. If you can't hurt me, I can't lose. If I can't lose, then I must win. When you mention teenagers, teenagers are famous for growing into flippancy. Ground me, take away my phone, take away my car, do this. I don't care.
I don't care.
And the recognition of that is, wait till you see how the parent responds, because when somebody doesn't care, our idea of consequences are often inflicting pain on other people. And
Yeah.
when we can't inflict pain on them, then that's where conflict says, raise the bar. I'll show you, you'll care now. And then it escalates and escalates because the person on the other side is feeling that threat. And we'll get to that in a bit. But that's the key to flippancy. It's an attempt to look logical that is not logic. It's
Yeah.
emotion to shield.
One of the greatest pieces of advice I was ever given when raising teenage daughters was a mantra of, I am a safe harbor. I am a
Mhm.
safe harbor, meaning whatever they came to me with, they're in their mood, the hormones are going, they don't want to clean their room, they're on their phone. And you're having that moment to remind myself, I am a safe harbor. And what that did for me was it lowered my shield, it lowered
Mhm.
my defenses, because I'm not arguing with my child. Because to me, there is a hierarchy there. I'm the parent and I do know better than you, but I'm not going to argue with you over what's going to happen next. So simply by lowering that vibration and energy of, I'm not going to fight with you, immediately brings their energy down. And it's
Mhm.
amazing how once I implemented that mantra of, I am a safe harbor, it's
Mhm.
almost like the disputes kind of like, I mean, they didn't go away. Okay, this is not La La Land, but they were softer. They were less
Mhm.
often. I wasn't defensive, and it's amazing. You throw a brick against a brick wall, and you're going to get an impact. You throw a brick against a pillow, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So I was trying to be the pillow. I was trying. I was
Well,
on a doormat,
and I
but
think, yeah, I think what you're moving to is from hierarchy to equity. And I would
okay.
say, yeah, because what's happening is you have said, I am the parent, and that's the I am, it is a hierarchy, but no, you're understanding the balance of conflict. And most parenting is fear-based. And your parenting has moved from fear-based to more love-based and recognition of them as a person. So I've told Grace many times that if you play the hierarchical games, you will suffer the hierarchical consequences. That is life. That is natural consequences in life. That is what life brings to us. If I don't work and do my job, I'm not going to get paid. I tried to
Right.
challenge this hierarchical systems as you work, and you work for me and or with me and do your job, I'll pay you. You know, there are consequences. If you don't follow directions, you're going to have natural consequences. So don't challenge the laws of physics. Don't jump off the cliff without wings and expect to fly, you know? So
Exactly.
so these are the things that you are transitioning to this, and this is what I love is what you're bringing in your experiences, and we're able to help our viewers also to then take those experiences and continue to translate them into what's been your growth, what's been my growth or my journey and recognition. So, this is just great conversation.
I'm loving it because I think the biggest challenge that you have as parents is, of course, you want to raise your children in the real world. You need to prepare them for the real world. And I'm very open with my children to let them know that if your mother doesn't stand for it, nobody else in the world is going to put up with it. But at the same time, you want to give that loving, compassionate perspective. And also while understanding what are their experiences, right? We're a product of
Right.
our experiences. So
Right.
why is she coming to me with this? Why is she feeling this way? And I don't have to, sit down and have that psychological discussion with her because she would,
Mhm.
not be happy with me as a teenager. But just for me to be aware of it and have that mantra of I am a safe harbor for her was enough to create an environment where now there's communication. And I
Mhm.
think when there's communication, the world is a better place. Your relationship grows and is better.
Yeah, yeah, and when you get to that place of flippancy with your kids, because more than likely it is going to happen, it's not a matter of if, it's when,
It's gonna
remember.
happen.
Yeah, remember that it's just an attempt to protect.
Yeah.
So that's one to keep in mind. Hey viewers, our episode ran a little long, so we decided to split into 2 episodes. So stay tuned for the next episode to pick up where we left off, and until next time.
True strength is noticing the harm and turning around.
Strength is choosing truth and love and human connection. Truth is not a weapon, not a side, not a crown.
It's what's revealed when we allow our defenses to fall down.
Life is not about being flawless, strong or right. It's learning to see each other in a perfectly imperfect light.
If we let love stand with courage, encourage us to take the path that hasn't been cleared.
Then being wrong was never lost. It was the doorway to something truer, something shared.
Perhaps it's time to look deep inside and find our truth.
A place we may be protecting that comes from our youth.
To believe in ourselves and know that we can all grow.
When we allow the seed inside us to sprout that truth has sown.